Hi, welcome to Talkin Business. I'm Joe Catrambone, and my guest today, and I'm honored, Ed, that you took time out of your busy schedule. Ed Griffith is General Manager
Yes.
of Hutchinson Shores Resort and Spa, one of the primo, if not the primo, venue on our coast for events, for lunches, for breakfasts, for conventions and things. I'll let you talk about that, Ed, later. I don't want to get into your business
No, I
because I
appreciate
don't
you
know
having
it.
me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So one of the things I always like to do is ask people, because we're a transient state and certainly community.
Yes.
So what brought you to Martin County and when?
Goodness, I'm celebrating my 25th year in Martin County.
Well,
And I came down for employment. I had an opportunity to reflag Indian River Plantation Resort to Indian River Plantation Marriott Resort. So I came down with a company I was with, Interstate Hotels, and I worked with Tim Digby, who was the first
oh, I
general
remember
manager
Tim.
there.
Sure, yeah,
And
yeah. He
so
was on
I,
my board.
yes, for the longest
Yeah,
time. So I worked with him, and I never left. I found that this was just an amazing place to raise children, and I wanted to send them all through the school, and so um, I finangled a way to do that.
well,
And so 25
congratulations.
years.
Yeah, yeah.
So a job.
It's interesting that you said that because one of the first question that we're asked when someone is interested in moving to our community is about the school system.
Yes, I get that a lot.
Yeah, and then the second thing is medical hospitals and things of that nature. But w- going back to '89, when I got to Martin County, no one was interested in schools then. I think the average age in Martin County in '89 was 62.3 years. It's in the low 50s now. So, but it's taken since '89
That
to
many
get there.
years.
Yeah. So of course now it's with the younger families moving in. That's the most important thing they want to know about. How are our schools? So it's interesting that even back then you thought about that.
97, I had two children. I have three now. And in 97, that's the first thing I looked at. And
Yeah.
so I knew where the hotel was, but then I needed to decide where to move.
Yeah.
And it was an easy choice.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit. You mentioned IRP, and it was interesting. That was the place. Indian River Plantation back in the
Was.
day
It
was
had a
the place.
heyday.
Yeah, and I can remember going to chamber events around the state, and I would say I was from Stewart, and I go Indian River Plantation. I mean, everybody was
Everyone
known.
knew it.
Yeah, yeah, and of course things evolve and things happen, and I think now you've got the primo.
Well, it's funny, back in the day, and not to go back in too much history, but Indian River Plantation was very similar to a Captiva, to Amelia Island. It was developed as a real estate venture, turned into a massive resort with massive amount of condos or buildings, and it was the place to go.
Golf course, tennis courts,
Everything.
the whole nine yards.
Now
Yeah.
there's so many choices. People are looking for geographics and where they're located. They're looking to be either near water or near a mountain or near something to do. It's no longer just about that hotel and being self-sufficient inside that hotel. It's about getting out and enjoying things that are local. And that's one of the biggest selling points of Martin County, to be honest with you.
Oh, I totally agree. How do you keep up with every industry has changes, and so what are some of the changes that you've seen, and do you see anything crazy is going to happen in your industry or that's going to change the industry anymore?
Our industry changes daily. It really does. It's a roller coaster ride. And so what you have is a business customer that also changes. So geographically, you target one area, but yet you realize there are more individuals coming from a different area. And I'll give you for instance, and we touched on this a little earlier, the association market in Florida is now beginning to travel. And they were not traveling the past couple years. And they did travel prior to that, but the association market traveled to so many different locations. Now they're trying to maximize their dollar. They're trying to maximize the experience for their attendees as well. It's not only a learning process to go to the association meetings or the regional meetings, but it's also what can you do in your spare time. So they're also allowing their attendees to enjoy and maximize work and play, so it's a balance. And so there's a lot more choices. So we're seeing a lot more of that now. And obviously the employment market is a challenge. But that ebb and flows. It really does. It's based on the economy, and you just have to ride it out. Right now it's a little bit of a challenge.
Yes, it's a big challenge. I mean, I've mentioned this before to people. In 1989, when I got to Stewart, we took a survey of our members. We wanted to know where the bumps in the road were and how the members felt about the chamber. Were we doing things right? What should we do to correct things that perhaps they didn't agree with? But anyway, the number one challenge in 1989 was hiring people. In 89, 2019, we do another survey. Guess what the number one challenge is?
It's the same thing.
So that's when we changed our direction, and it was just in the early stages of COVID. We weren't doing events. I said to our board, we need to change our focus here because we need to try and help our members find employees.
Take care of that.
And that's how this whole thing came around with Career Connect, where we're now, spoke about it a little earlier, we're supplying members with an employee for 4 weeks at $15 an hour during a training program. And one of the things I was concerned about early on was that we couldn't help the hospitality industry, who, in my opinion, I think it's a well-known fact that the hospitality industry was probably the worst affected industry during COVID.
Yeah. We emptied out.
Yeah. So my thoughts were, the hospitality industry pays waitresses, I don't know, minimum $5-6 an hour plus tips. That's what I was guessing.
Right.
Maids, for instance, I didn't think we're making $15 an hour. So how could we ask an employer to take somebody that we're training for $15 an hour and expect them to take a job for $9? But you told me that's changed.
It has changed.
So
wages have went up. I don't know if anyone has noticed, but when you travel, the rate for hotel rooms have increased substantially. And one of the reasons it's increased is labor, the overhead cost of labor. It's not a profitability standpoint. It's not necessarily always a cost of goods, because those are leveling off, but it's the labor piece. And so we've increased our labor to stay competitive. We have some great people that work with us. And
You
there's
do have a
nothing,
great staff.
nothing
You do.
more enjoyable than watching somebody grow and get promoted. You know, our industry, unlike so many others, we promote from within. And so I went to school, but instead I started part-time in a hotel. And so 35 years ago, I started as a bellman. I started as a van driver. And I realized that this can be a career as well. And a lot of our people do. They'll start with degrees in journalism. They'll start with degrees in accounting, things that have nothing to do with hotel. And the next thing you see is they're getting promoted through the hotel industry.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We find great people.
And you know, the other thing, part of our Career Connect, I don't mean to get off on a tangent on that, is but career path. Because if there's not a career path, we don't want to put someone in a position that's a dead end.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's personnel 101. You hire within. I mean, you're sending a message to the employees.
I would agree.
You know, so when you promote from within, that's, I mean, certainly is going to increase the length of stay of your employees. So
If you want to know something funny, and I don't know why this is, and it's every hotel that I've ever worked, but the majority of customers, they don't truly realize that every single person in our building lives local. There's an assumption that we are brought in from other parts of the world, and you know, a lot of hotels will wear where they're from on their name tag.
yeah. A lot of restaurants do that too.
There's a thought that they're just brought in, and some international hotels, they do that. We have one locally that does that, but we don't. We employ everyone local. So the
It's kind
funniest
of boring.
part.
Where are you from, Stuart?
Well, the funniest part is when you have a local saying, "I don't know where they get these people. We're your neighbors. We're right across the street from you." But it is fascinating, and we have such great people in this area. We just have a great base of, you know, parents with their children, and they're teaching them really work ethic, and that's the best part about this area specifically. we still have a work ethic.
Yeah, one of the things I tell people, we're in a bubble. I really believe Martin County is in a bubble. I mean, look north of us and look
Me
south
too.
of us. We all felt the effects of COVID, and I hate talking about it, but it's a fact. We went through the effects of COVID. I speak to other chambers execs, not only around the state, but around the country. And I hear some of the horror stories. And quite frankly, we did, I mean, other than the fact that we couldn't do events, our membership development was up, our membership retention was up. We did well. So there was not a downturn. Financially, our chamber did not face a downturn through the COVID. So, I mean, that's why I say, we're in a bubble here.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's interesting. During COVID, we still had tourism, but we had it come to us in a different way. We had it come to us when the beaches down south closed.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
so
remember that.
People came
Oh,
up
yeah.
to use the beach.
I remember that.
Big issue.
Yeah,
They're
it
all
was.
coming up to use the beach,
Yeah.
but they also came up to eat,
Yeah.
to stay,
Buy gas.
and they spent and dropped money.
Yeah.
And so it was an odd type of tourism, but it was a manageable type of tourism. But
Yeah.
those things happened a lot. And I do feel that we made the right decisions within our county as far as what we did to keep the businesses afloat.
I don't know if you can share this or not. How did your occupancy rate stay through from the beginning of COVID to now? How was it,
COVID started affecting us in beginning of March, and by March 20th we were empty,
really? I mean,
completely
virtually?
empty, and we ended up furloughing 180 people. Now we furloughed them because we knew they would be back. We thought the furlough might last a week, 2 weeks, and for most people, by Mother's Day of that year, we almost sold out.
Really?
Everything was so busy,
Wow.
so we started bringing people
So
back.
just a couple of months.
It really was. For us, it was a couple months, and we got people back to work as soon as possible. But what we found is when we attempted to bring everyone back, people had decided to do other things, or they decided not to come back. We just 2 months ago ended up separating with one of the last people that never came back from COVID because they just didn't feel confident enough to come back. And that's okay. And that was the biggest adjustment for us. Everyone had a different comfort level during it. And you can't judge the comfort level. We still have guests that say, I haven't been out since COVID, so I want to stay with you. I think that would be great.
So obviously, your events are coming back or have come back.
They are. We've seen a little backup where weddings couldn't be held and association market and couldn't travel. And so what we found is they began to start to come back. And so this year and the end of last year has been extremely strong. Compared to just overall in tourism in Florida has increased year over year.
Yeah.
Even to pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID? Really?
The tail end of last quarter of last year, we were 7% over pre-COVID. And that's a great lift.
Wow. Yes.
And 50% or so over the year prior, 2020, which shows
So things are looking really good.
a lot of optimism.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk chamber. I mean, I know you're a chamber guy.
Absolutely.
I know that in fact, you were chairman of the Jensen Beach Chamber, weren't you?
I was for 3 years.
Yeah, and you were on the board forever. You still on the board?
I ended up getting off the board for 2 years, but I'm back on this year,
Okay.
which is good. You have a new face, you have fresh ideas. I was able to stay off the board for a couple years, and I jumped back on this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And of course, that's where you should be. I mean, you're in Hutchinson Island, you're in Jensen Beach, and I know you and Ron had a great rapport and still do, and I do too. Ron and I are good friends,
Absolutely.
and so. But as I say, as long as I can remember, you've been supportive of the chambers, and I really appreciate that. So
It's huge for us, and we use chamber members as well. We use them as vendors.
that's huge.
And if you talk to my family, they say I'm a little tilted too far. We'll dine out, and I'll check to see if they're a chamber member, and I'll check for the sticker on the door. And a lot of times it's a sticker from 1999, and I know they're not renewed. And I really believe that you have to support other chambers. I want them to support me. We have to support them. And when there's any downturn, we're still eating, and that's where we're going.
Yeah.
I'll avoid businesses the best I can that don't contribute back. And I think the chamber and being a member is your contribution back. It's saying, listen, I want to support everyone while you support me as well.
I tell our board, our staff, my wife, our members pay our salaries. The reason we're able to live the lifestyle we're living is because we have members who support the chamber. We need to support. Now, I know there's instances where it's a sole source or things of that nature, but I drive people, especially my.
I'm the same way.
Oh, if they're not a chamber member, we're not going. I said, that's right, we're not going. So, and I appreciate that. It's a loyalty, but it's also obviously I'm prejudiced, but it's a smart business decision.
Absolutely.
It's and again, I tell new members especially, we're going to give you the tools to increase your client base, your customer base. If you don't use them, I can't help you. It's like you go to Walmart and buy a fishing pole, put it in the garage. Ain't going to catch any fish. So what do you do, bring it back to Walmart and tell them I didn't catch any fish? So you have to use that fishing pole that will give you to go.
It's so true. I see new members with all the chambers because we're members of most all, and I see them one day and I don't the next, and I wonder why. And they feel like they should get so much out of the chamber, but yet they're not at the events, they're not networking, they're not getting known. That's a big piece of it. You got to give something back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you get that, and I really appreciate that. So let me ask you, we've been chatting here for a while. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about or mention that we haven't covered?
In my business, I operate 2 hotels. So I actually have the Hutchinson Shores Resort, and I also have the Courtyard by Marriott in St. Lucie County. Mm-hmm. So we get a chance to really see, does the business come from different locations between a flagged and a collection hotel? And we found that tourism is coming back. The customers coming back. They're coming back to eat. They're coming back to drink. They're coming back to fill up their gas. And they're not staying. They're just enjoying what they can enjoy. And I think it's flattering that they leave other counties, they leave other locations to come to us.
Yeah, yes, it is
So
flattering.
I love the venues. I love the location. I love what we have going on throughout the county. And without it, we wouldn't be as busy. So we're thankful for that.
Well, we love having you here too. I mean, it's a feather in our cap to have a venue like yours available.
Well, thank you.
And so we're getting the Florida Association of Chamber Professionals does a conference every year, and Martin, I think that this area is getting ready to host one. And of course, when I get an RFP, obviously I'm going to
That'd be
give it
wonderful.
to you, and that would be great for us to be able to host a state chamber affair here. It would be great.
The goal is to get individuals to come out to see us, and then they can come back and visit on their own.
Yeah, once you're here, you got them.
You will come back.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yes.
Well, Ed, thank you so much. I appreciate
Awesome.
you taking the time.
Thanks for
out of
having
your-
me.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.